Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, August 18th, and welcome to episode 205 of Buds and Blue Jays. It's your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Jesse Burrell, and we are not joined by Riley McConnell today. He's going through his internet issues. We hope to have Riley back on Wednesday after the Red Series. And a quick shout out to Jesse Turiso for filling in for us over the last few episodes. Well, Riley was on hiatus, but we are calling up a friend, and longtime listeners of the show will know this guy as he's been on one of our episodes yet before. But David, it's been a while. David Fulton, welcome back to the show, my guy. It's glad to have you aboard.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, put me in, coach. It's been it's a little bit more cheery this time around since the last time was the Mariners loss autopsy, which was just sad no matter which way you sliced it. So yeah, well, I think there's a few more positives we can take from this last slate of baseball, so that's nice. But yeah, no, happy to be here.
Yeah, no Toronto Blue Jays are colliding into each other. No Toronto Blue Jays are blowing a 7-run lead. Jesse's not getting on the Jumbotron in tears after the game here, going viral from Sportsnet. So a lot more positive things from even what was a series loss from the Chicago Cubs for the Blue Jays down in Wrigley. Today on the show, we are going to touch on all the notable performances, including a hell of a performance from Bowden Francis in this series. We had home runs from 3 Blue Jays, Joey Loperfido, Leo Jimenez, and Addison Barger. We'll talk about what it all means going forward for this team, and we have some cool thoughts on the City Connect jerseys and all that stuff going forward. But remember, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have yet to do so, please make sure you're doing so. Follow us on all the socials. We have big things coming for these social media pages going into the off season and for the rest of this regular season, so you do not want to miss that. David, with that being said, going forward, we might as well just dive right into it. Give me your player of the weekend for the Toronto Blue Jays this series against the Chicago Cubs.
I mean, that's a tough one. This series was kind of like, I felt like there was like a distinct best guy in each individual game. Okay. So summing up the whole weekend would be tough. But if I was gonna give it to somebody, honestly, I'd have to probably do like a tie and have it be Bowden Francis and Joey Loperfido for winning the third game of the set for us by themselves. Don't get me wrong, we had some strong defensive play there too. The bullpen was good behind Francis. That was great to see. But when you win a game 1-0, it's hard not to say that the starting pitcher and the one guy that drove the run in are the ones that won the game for you. So probably a tie between those two guys.
Yeah, let's go Bowden Francis, because I was enamored by what he did in this series. Coming off a start in Anaheim against the Angels where he dominated, he threw his sinker a career-high 12 times. I'm always so fascinated to see what Bowden Francis is going to do with his pitch mix coming up next here, because he really seems to have figured something out. And in this series, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, didn't walk a single batter, struck out 7 in his 7 innings against the Chicago Cubs. Some really impressive starts. And what I noticed most from watching Bowden Francis in this start was his splitter. I think he used his splitter a career high 34% of the time. Like, that's getting close to Kevin Gausman-esque numbers with using your splitter. And it worked. He got 6 whiffs on the pitch. He looked downright filthy. There were times when he was on complete cruise control in this start. And Bowden Francis did talk after this start here that he thought a lot of this came down to, hey, I now have a consistent role. I know I'm going out and pitching every 5 days. It's hard when you're kind of moving back and forth, as we've talked about with this before, but very good stuff from Bowden Francis. What did you like from his appearance here?
Yeah, I mean, I echo the sentiment there. It does really feel a lot like Gausman is rubbing off on him. That he's really taken that splitter to heart and is really working on making it a weapon in his arsenal. And yeah, I mean, you saw it on full display. Granted, he got a couple of like borderline calls, but that's what you need to get a really good start in is get a little bit of love from the umpire sometimes. And he got, but at the end of the day, getting those kind of calls means that you have to sort of be in the neighborhood. I mean, this isn't like umpiring from the 1990s where it's like, as long as it's in the same zip code, you have a chance.
Right.
These got to be in the shadow of the zone. So kudos to him for executing really well. Love to see him get out of the bases loaded jam there. That was really nice to see because that felt like a spot not just that it was going to unravel, but it felt like the kind of spot where he had struggled in the past. Like looking at some of the starts that he made earlier in the year, it was like flex points in that kind of a moment that ended up changing the complexion of an outing for him, where he looks really good through the first couple of innings, and then kind of it all comes apart on him thanks to one reason or another. So it was really nice to see that he was able to keep his composure, just do what he needed to do, froze the guy, and that was that. It was all around really, really nicely executed for him, despite having to juggle a few guys on the base paths and deal with a little bit of weirdness behind him and from the defense. And yeah, got the job done, passed it off to the bullpen. That's all. That's what you need from this guy. And it'll be really interesting to see what his next couple of starts are looking like, because this is great. Between this one and the one against the Angels, this is super good momentum to be able to, because pitching is so mental. You be able to, you have this in the bank where you're like, I just pitched 14 plus innings of like ultra quality ball. I'm feeling really good going into my next start.
Yeah, 14 innings pitched, 15 strikeouts, just 1 earned run allowed this week alone from Bowden Francis. I wish I picked him up for my fantasy team, but that's
my God,
story for another day there. And Bowden Francis, we love, baseball's a game of adjustments, and we love seeing pitchers make adjustments. And Chris Black, our friend, who we've mentioned on Twitter a handful of times, who we met about a month ago here, had a nice breakdown on Bowden Francis. He went back on catcher's ERA, and he noticed that Danny Jansen was actually the best catcher at catching Bowden Francis. And they dove through the tape, and they looked at what was Danny Jansen doing. And basically he was stealing strikes early and trusting Bowden Francis' stuff with 2 strikes. I want to give Brian Servant some credit here, because it seemed like he was doing a lot of that. He is like, hey, your splitter is working. Let's call more of the splitter. Let's get in there and let's go with it. And good on Bowden Francis for following through and executing with that plan. I like that tandem, and I'd love to see the two of them working together again in his next start.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to give a little bit of credit to Brian there as well. Because game planning is such a big thing, especially when you've got a guy like Francis on the mound, where it's like
Right.
You've got a pretty good idea that he's got the stuff. You just have to work it in a way that's going to maximize its utility. And I agree with you 100%. I think if you look back at the first couple of innings, there were a few borderline calls with the split that the umpire gave him, and I think Servant's like, okay, so this is what's really, really going for us. We got to maximize this today. And
I agree.
Maybe next time it'll be, one of his other pitches, but that splitter is looking better and better every time he throws it.
And it's very good. Very encouraged by the start of Bowden Francis. David, just give me an answer to this question. True or false? Bowden Francis is in your starting rotation in 2025.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I think it's probably too early to say.
Give me one. Come on, pick an answer.
It's such a tough thing, only because you'd expect that the management group would be making some moves, looking for guys. And there's a lot of question marks. And like, is Bloss going to play? Is Manoah part of that plan? You'd think so, but we don't know. The off season's a wild time, as we all know. I would say tentatively right now, based on the options that are available, I would say probably yes. I would think if he continues to pitch the way that he has, then at the very least, he's your 6th guy. At the very least.
I will say true. He's been very good down the stretch. He showed flashes of dominance down in the minor leagues. I think this is just the beginning for what Bowden Francis could do, and it would not surprise me if he's a legit number 3 starter for our team going into next season. You mentioned the other player that you were really impressed by this series, Joey Loperfido. And in game 1, I thought it was important that he got a hit in that one, just to go 1 for 4 solid, just to get that monkey off the back. And we saw his home run today, his first home run as a Toronto Blue Jay, and leave me impressed a little bit in this one. It was lefty on lefty. Shoto Imanaga pitched him a fastball up above the zone. He hit it well. He turned on it pretty good. Good piece of hitting for Joey Loperfido. Now, those 2 hits were his only 2 hits in the series, and he has a long way to go before, he's back from his massive strikeout rate that he had. But looking at the game logs here, he only struck out once in game 1, and in today's game 2, Joey Loperfido, it didn't have a strikeout at all in today's game. So only striking out once in a series for Joey Loperfido, I will call that a win. Maybe it's a time he's just starting to get a little bit more comfortable now. We know the tools are there for Loperfido. Maybe this is the sign of good things to come for him going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You certainly hope so anyway. Getting the 0 for over with is so huge for any guy. And you know that the defensive toolkit is there. You know that he has some hitting upside as well. It's just a question of, can you finally get back around to it? And I think this is a really good sign that he's going in the right direction. I think he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with the club, with the guys, kind of realizing that he doesn't have a necessarily like a guaranteed spot here, but that he is going to be getting regular ABs, which is huge. Yep. So much of hitting, like from a mental struggle standpoint, tends to be guys that are like, in and out of the lineup. They don't know if they're going to play any given day. And if you're Joey right now, you're looking at it and you're saying, I'm probably not going to play every day, but I'm probably going to play most days. And that's got to be huge for you. Because, I mean, even when he was with Houston, I mean, there was a lot of in and out and in and out. It was really him just kind of being the flex seal of the lineup, where it's like, okay, we're giving this guy the day off, or this guy's, pulled his hammy. We'll stick you in there for a couple, and then you're right back out again. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what he can do down the stretch.
He's been playing quite frequently, actually. I think he's been played more than Davis Schneider, than Stuart Baroa. Like, it seems like he's the guy that's out there in left field more often than not. He's playing more than Addison Barger. So it does seem like John Schneider really wants to give the new guy a bit of a run here. And, I'd like to see Addison Barger play a little bit more, and we can touch on that a little later in the episode. But if Joey Loperfido is John Schneider's first choice to go out there into left field, especially because of the defense and the run prevention, then having these hits and having that home run are going to go a long way for him. David, my next question for you. Are you a fan of small ball?
I am. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like dingers as much as the next guy. And I mean, I still remember that Simpsons episode with the MLB conspiracy where Mark McGuire's like, do you want me to tell you the truth? Or do you want me to see me sock some dingers? And they're all like,
sock some dingers. Yeah.
100%. Love me some dingers. But I do, and I've said this for a number of years, because, 2020, 2021, it felt like the club was trying to exclusively focus on the long ball. Like, it seemed like every guy that was in the lineup was trying to swing for the fences for the most part. And I'm like, can we please get like 2 or 3 contact hitters in this lineup? Because it's great to hit solo home runs, but it's a lot better if there's dudes on base, or if, you string a couple of small hits together. Because, home runs are great, but if you can put pressure on the defense, that's huge. And putting balls in play is the way to do that.
The Blue Jays did a little bit of that in game 2 of this series. The Jays were down 3-0 going into the 7th, and this is what caught my attention. Stuart Baroa, great at bat, got a single to left to lead off the inning. After an Addison Barger fly ball, George Springer singled to left, and Stuart Baroa went to third. Dalton Varsho laid down, which might have been one of the best safety squeezes I have seen in a long time. It's perfect left-handed bunt. He got it past the pitcher and in between the first baseman, so they were able to move across no problem. I'd rather see Dalton Varsho swing away, but when the safety squeeze is executed that perfectly, and we've known Varsho has shown this ability that this is in his tool bag, was actually quite good. Got the Blue Jays a run, really started a momentum until with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the plate, they tried to do the double steal with George Springer and Dalton Varsho, and George Springer was nailed at third base, and it was his first caught stealing of the season. If it works, you look like a genius, but boy, does it look real bad when you're down by 2, the go-ahead run at the plate in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's been the hottest player in the planet since the All-Star break here, and you're going out and making outs on the bases. Does not feel good. So I wanted to get your opinions on those 2 plays, the safety squeeze and then the caught stealing with Vlad at the plate in game 2.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% behind you on that one. When I saw the for some of the games, I had to go back and watch the highlights, but I saw that one in real time and genuinely remarked out loud that might have been the best bunt I've seen all season.
Yeah, I said, wow. I don't gasp at a bunt too often, but on Varsho's bunt, I audibly let out a wow.
Yeah, no, that it was really extremely well executed. Like we knew he had the ability to do that because we've seen bunts like that before, and he has the home to first speed to do that. But got the pitch exactly where you'd hope to get it, completely squared it up perfectly, 50% of the way between the pitcher and first base, to kind of force the pitcher to go as far as humanly possible before picking the ball up. You can't do it much better than that, honestly. So
but then how about the stolen base with Vladdy at the plate?
Man,
feels bad, doesn't it?
It does. I saw the replay and it's like, man, you're tagged out by like a mosquito. Like that's how close it is. But it is clear that he was out. And the old adage is you never ever want to make that out at third base. God, that's a tough one to swallow because especially given the context of the game situation, it certainly felt like they were on the cusp of doing more damage there. And like you said, I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s numbers since the All-Star break are like comparable to Aaron Judge right now, which is insane to be saying out loud considering the season that he's having. But I can't remember if it was Sportsnet or if it was MLB TV or something like that, but they showed a side-by-side graphic of the two of them since the All-Star break, and their numbers are almost identical. Like, it's actually scary how close they are.
There was a number, we talked about it after the Angels series, that Vlad was literally having the best post-All-Star break in terms of like OPS plus of all time. Like literally the best that has ever happened.
Yeah, forget one dotting. He's 1.4ing it since the All-Star break. Like it's just an absurd clip that's like, okay, who's 1.4'd it? Oh, Barry Bonds? Wow, that's right. Okay. You've got my attention. But yeah, given
another reason you don't run when he's on base like that, right? When he's at the plate.
That's just it, right? I get the game plan there, and I don't necessarily hate it, but you've got one of the hottest hitters on planet Earth at the plate. You would hope at that juncture that they trust that he can do something with that. So it is a tough pill to swallow. Like I say, if it's a different guy at the plate, if it's a different situation in the inning, fine. That's just bad luck that you got nabbed by the narrowest of margins. But given that it's that late in the game, it's this guy at the plate and we're down by 2 runs at that point, it's like a ball in play would have served us considerably better than trying to move guys up. Like, again, you get a ball, if that goes off without a hitch and you get a ball in play and both score because you got second and third now, you look like an absolute genius. But unfortunately, we got the alternate reality where absolutely by the narrowest of margins that George got picked off. So it's tough.
Some people would say that could be a fireable offense for your manager, John Schneider, to call that. But, like I said, if it works, it's a different story. You talked about Vlad and the heater he was on. He quietly did not have a good series this series. I think 1 for 12. He had a double in game 2, and he had a couple bad strikeouts. There was one notably in game 3. He chased 3 sliders all out of the zone, and it's something we've seen Vlad do, especially early in the year when he was struggling. It's worth noting that is still a soft spot in his zone. Like, he can get chase happy on that slider down and away, and I don't want to forget that because I know other teams are going to pick up on that on Vlad Jr. as well. Until he can prove he's going to not swing at that, I still think there could be another level even to his game with how good he's been once he stops chasing that pitch. So just worth noting.
Yeah, it really, the at-bat you're mentioning, and there was another one, I want to say it was I think it was the at-bat to end game 2 when he was the last out. And the pitch that he swung at from the Cubs pitcher there, I was glad.
Wasn't even close. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't close, and it was very clearly a late emergency hack, and it's the sort of thing that you hadn't, like, since he's been running so hot, it's the sort of thing that hasn't really been fooling him that way. I mean, we saw other spots in the series where, like there was one at-bat where it's 3-2, and Imanaga throws him a really nice splitter, and he just spat on him. Just was like,
great take.
Nope. not interested. Knew it was coming. It's not going to be close. I'm going to take my base. So you know that he has that kind of discipline. But yeah, quietly, a little bit of a sluggish series for him there. Nice to see him continuing to take the free passes when they were available. But yeah, I think that the Cubs game planned around him a lot in this series, and I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But I think their game plan worked a lot better than whatever the Angels were trying to do with them, because none of it worked. So.
Yeah. And because of the plate appearances he had here, I would bet that his upcoming series against the Reds are going to be more like that than the 1 for 12 he put in here with the Chicago Cubs. But it's just worth noting going forward for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Some other notable position player stat lines. Jays hit 3 home runs in the series. One, we already talked about Joey Loperfido, but Addison Barger went deep. He took Jorge Lopez deep, and Leo Jimenez went deep. And we talked about the home run he hit in the Angels series, which was a wall scraper, only a home run in 3 out of 30 parks. This one was legit for Leo Jimenez. So good on him to show a little bit of his power. Binge, he's got all the tools in the world, can play a good shortstop. So it's good to see from Leo Jimenez. But unfortunately, he left game 2 with a knee injury and wasn't in the lineup in game 3. So we'll see what happens from there. George Springer, 415. He had a huge game-tying triple in game 1, which tied the score for the Blue Jays. So that was nice to see from him. Davis Schneider, our old friend, hitless in the series. And I wanted to get a Will Wagner update from you, who came out of the gate flying in game 1. In this series, 3 for 7 for Will Wagner. Did not play in game 3. He did walk once, struck out twice, but the exit velocity number still very good for Will Wagner. So those players, David Wagner, Springer, Davis Schneider, and Leo Jimenez. Do you have a take on any of them? Or even Addison Barger as well?
Barger, not a ton to say there. I've liked what I've seen from him. Glad that he's getting some more reliable reps right now. I know you and I had talked previously about that. We both felt that he should be playing more, especially post trade deadline with guys out of the lineup. So nice to see him make some good, really nice, solid defensive plays. There was even one play that I watched him make at third base. I think he dove towards the third base line, made the grab, got up, made a really good throw. Like, it was bang on to Guerrero. So if it had been slightly earlier, it might have gotten the runner. Like, the runner was, I think it was Michael Busch. He was safe, but I'm like, he's like on knee and still made the throw.
The arm is so impressive.
The arm is very impressive. So it was good to see him show up defensively, and that's a legit bomb. Like, that was dead center. Like, he cranked that thing. So nice to see a little bit of power from him. Same with Jimenez. I like him a lot in terms of the defensive package that he comes with, and it was one of those things, like you say, where it's like you see what the numbers look like in the minors, and you say, is this the kind of guy that we could get at the major league level? And I think we saw a little bit of that. Nice to see that one. Like you say, that one was legit. That was like 7 rows back in left center in Wrigley. So that's nothing to sneeze at there. And especially considering that the wind seemed to be very against the Jays in this series. It felt like every other at bat I was looking at, especially early in the series, was like a 370-foot flyout. It felt like. So nice to see him to contribute offensively for us there. Springer, I would have probably given him the MVP. Like, if we were going game by game, you would have to give it to him, I think, for game number 1 with the triple, especially in that moment. He's hitless up until that point in the game, and so that's a huge moment for him to come through, the kind of moment that you would expect from like a prime Springer. So it was nice to see that guy show up in that moment. Just a shame that we couldn't capitalize on runner at third in the situation, and to have it go out in extras the way it did, that's tough. But nice to see him show up. Kind of a weird up and down year for him too. I know he's getting a little bit on. You expect a little bit of age-related regression there, but yeah, I mean, other than the game 1, there wasn't really anything that stood out to me for the rest of the series for him there. Not to say that he was playing poorly. Certainly still the defensive guy that you expect. Just it was tough for the rest of the series there. I don't know if I have all the box scores in front of me here, but other than that 1 for 5, I think he went 1 for 5 in the third game, and that was it really. I think
4 hits. 4 for 15 in the series for George Springer.
It was 4 for 15. Okay, yeah. It like I say, other than the triple, it didn't really feel like there was a lot going on there, and that's no disrespect to George, but yeah,
it's just kind of who he is at this point in his career, right?
Other than the triple and some decent defensive plays, there wasn't a whole lot for me there. And who was sorry, I'm blanking who the fourth guy that you mentioned.
Oh, Will Wagner. Just one of your last thought on how Will Wagner looked here.
He looks good. I know we talked prior about like you don't have to have everyone in the lineup be an all-star, but you have to have some guys that are like legit guys.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's really early, but he looks like a dude. Like the swing is smooth and easy. He's got pretty good speed. He did boot a ball in this game, I think it was the second game, but otherwise defensively he looked pretty good. And yeah, 3 for 7. I think he drew a walk there as well. Pearson kind of got hosed on that call, but you'll take the free pass when you get the free pass. So yeah, the plate discipline seems decent. He's willing to take a walk. He seems like he's got some power there because you've seen the extra base potential in that. And man, how nice is it we went from having basically no lefty power bat for 3 years, and now we've got 4 or 5 lefties in the lineup like every day. Like I like right-handed guys as much as left-handed guys, but like I remember I can't remember. I think we had this conversation offline, but I feel like I asked you like, who is the best left-handed power bat that we had like in the last 5 years? And I think the answer I came up was like Justin Smoak.
Yeah, he was switch hitter, so I don't even know if Justin Smoak really
does that even count? Kendrys Morales,
also a switch hitter.
Yeah, exactly. Like we just haven't. The lineup has been screaming for a guy that has a big, smooth lefty swing like that. And Varsho's got pop, that, but I think it's too early to say, but like Wagner feels like he could be that guy. Not necessarily that he's going to be like, mashing 30, 40 homers, but when you have a legit dangerous big lefty bat threat there that can put 2 bases on you at any given at bat, that's huge for a lineup. And I want to see as much of this guy as we can get our hands on down the stretch.
It's still very early in his career for Will Wagner, only 15 plate appearances, but he's already accumulated 0.5 WAR in 4 games for Will Wagner? Like absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy.
But I want to bring up his splits though, because it seems like there might be some platoon issues here. He's 8 for 10 against righties, which is ridiculous, but 0 for 5 against lefties. So keep that in mind that maybe there might be in a platoon going forward, or maybe that's the plan for him next year. David, we're running up against the clock here, so I do want to talk about the other 2 starting pitchers that made an appearance in this series. The first one is Yariel Rodriguez, who he gave up 3 home runs in this start. He gave up two runs in the first inning, then kind of really settled in, and then it was back-to-back home runs when he got to the bottom of the Cubs order the second time through. This was also the first time we've seen John Schneider take Yariel Rodriguez and give him a chance at the third time through the order. Now, we only faced the first 2 guys and got them, but it was after he'd already given up the 4 earned runs and the 2 walks for Yariel Rodriguez. I still think, though, I'm leaving this start impressed with Yariel. Yeah, the home runs were an issue and the walks were not great, but he got a lot of called strikeouts in this game. And, I'm still really impressed with the stuff in the pitch mix and the ability that he has shown in the past to not induce hard contact. I'm still overall pretty impressed by Yariel. And then the other one, Chris Bassett, who... Remember his last start he made in Rogers Center? He was complaining about the roof and how it was a problem and how it affected his game. Well, I bet you he wished he had a roof in this start because he came out. He allowed a home run to the first batter he faced. And then 3 batters later, we had a rain delay. So Chris Bassett goes to the dugout, throws a few more pitches. Then he comes back in. And then there's another rain delay. Then he gets a ghost shut down. Ultimately, he gutted through 5 innings, only walked 2, gave up 3 earned runs. But I bet you didn't hear any complaints about having a roof from Chris Bassett after that one. So those two pitchers, Yariel Rodriguez, Chris Bassett, what were your takeaway on their performance this series?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's not an ideal start for Rodriguez, given that he gave up the home runs that he did. I mean, it's Wrigley, so I guess you can chalk it up to that a little bit. You hate to see that kind of hard contact, no matter which way you slice it. But on the whole, I thought it was nice progress. Certainly not his best start, but nothing to sneeze at either. I mean, 5 innings, 4 earned is not that uncommon a stat line this year with the offensive environment being the way that it is. So I thought he did
fine enough. Gave your team a chance to win the game, which is what you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't let the doors get blown off. The Jays were not out of the game by the time that he left them out. So that's all you can ask. And same thing for Bassett. Kudos to him for gutting through it. It's never easy when you got not just 1 rain delay, but 2. So the fact we got 5 out of him at all is honestly kind of impressive, considering that Justin Steele on the other side, I think he ended up with 2+ before they just said, you know what, forget it. We'll turn it over to the bullpen just in case. So I appreciate that Bassett's that kind of guy who's like, yeah, I've been sitting here for an hour, but tough. I've got to go out there and pitch. So I'm going to give you as many innings as I can give you. You like to see workhorse guys like that.
Yeah, and that's what we've known from Chris Bassett. That's what he's always been now. So 5 innings starts, it's good. He's he's gone more than 5 innings once in his last 5. So I think we would like to see Chris Bassett get a little bit more length under his belt there and work more efficiently going forward. To the bullpen, and don't love talking Blue Jays bullpen as we have the last few days, but hey, they pitched, and so we got to talk about him here. Chad Green in game 1 of this series came up with the zombie runner on. He walked a guy, then gave up a hit, and ultimately got walked off on. But he did come in, give up a hit in game 3, but got the save, which was good for him. I thought it was very interesting that John Schneider in game 3 with a 1-0 lead in the 8th inning after Bowden Francis was done, he went Ryan Burr to come in and try to shut down a 1-1 lead, which I thought was interesting. Gave up 1 base runner, got 2 outs, and then they had Genesis Cabrera come in, and he retired his only batter. So they both got credit for the hold. So interesting decision there from John Schneider to bring in Ryan Burr. But I guess, when your team does not have that many great options, so be it. Jays did give up an earned run from a home run from Brandon Littell, but Ryan Yarborough, Zach Pop had scoreless appearances in this one. Did you have a thought from the rest of the Blue Jays bullpen?
Yeah, on the whole, not a lot to complain about, honestly. Sucks for Chad in the first game, but nice to see him bounce back and nail it down for us in the third game when we're up 1. So that was great to see. I was intrigued by a couple of the bullpen decisions, and I think on the whole that they were all the right moves. Nice dance routine with Vladdy and Burr there. That there's a play
yeah, you like that, eh?
Where the diving stab and then the throw's kind of in a wonky spot, and he does the pirouette and just barely gets his toe on the bag. That's a nice play. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a lucky play, but that was a nice play to see. So that was good. Yeah, not a lot to be super impressed by, I don't think, but nothing that I thought warranted a closer examination. I will say, you'll have to forgive me if he's pitched before, but Tommy Nance.
Yeah.
Was that his first appearance, or had he pitched for us prior to this?
He was just claimed off the waivers from the D-backs. He might have got into 1 game late into the Angels series, but it's the first time I'd seen him. He's still very early in his Blue Jays career.
I was going to say, if he had pitched for us before, I didn't recall it. And so I was like,
D-backs, not the Angels, but
yeah. But he walked out of the mound, and I kind of had him, what? I know that we've got like a carousel of dudes back there this year, but Tommy Nance? But he pitched really well. Like, no drama. Like he had I think if I remember correctly, he had a base runner at some point in time. I think he gave up a hit, might have walked a guy, but otherwise pitched around it perfectly well. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is pleasant. I like this when we have a random dude that shows up out of nowhere and gives us a scoreless frame. You love to see it.
Yeah, it's his 4th appearance actually for the Blue Jays this season, and the first time he wasn't used in a blowout. So there's that for Tommy.
That I was going to say that could be why I'm remembering him more in this one and less in the other ones, where it's like well, I don't really feel like watching this anymore. But it's the wrong side of a blowout. So, so yeah, kudos to them overall.
The Dodgers just released Brent Honeywell, and I'm just saying, Blue Jays, if we're giving spots to Tommy Lance on there, let's get Brent Honeywell a look in here, and let's keep churning through that bullpen to see if we can try to find a guy that sticks. I was going to talk a little bit about defense. You talked about the Vlad play to Ryan Burr. We had a good one. Spencer Horwitz made a great play. Vlad made a very nice play going into the first base dugout there to rob a foul ball, as we've seen. Varsho, I thought, would have caught the Michael Busch triple in this series. I swear that ball tipped off the basket or something, or changed directions late, because Varsho's a machine out there and he would have caught it. But overall, good defensive play by the Toronto Blue Jays, which is minor, but it works. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a tough one. Yeah, I mean, it's never easy when you know you're going up against the bricks at Wrigley. Mm-hmm. I know people have been saying it for years now, but I'm like, can they not just does the ivy not grow on pads? Can you at least put some padding out there so that guys can make plays? But it is what it is. And it did look like, when I saw the replay, it did feel like it went off the top of the basket and then up against a brick and kind of took a weird carom off the wall. So that's a tough play. As I said before, I know there was a play at second base that Wagner booted it, but that was in the bottom. That was the bottom half of an inning where that was that weird inning where the Cubs had 3 weird defensive plays.
Yeah, they threw the ball around quite a bit. Yeah.
So I'm like, is this just a strange game? Is this the diamond being kind of wonky because of all the rain? I don't know. But either way, as a unit, I thought they were really solid defensively. They made pretty much all the plays that you'd expect to make, especially a couple where it looked like they were fighting it in the Chicago Sun. George Springer, there was one where it looked like he was – oh, yeah, I got it. And a couple from that one Vlad basket catch where Spencer nearly ran him over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all in all, nothing to complain about defensively. Yeah.
All right, Dave. Well, it was Players Weekend for the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's always very exciting when the players get to show a little bit of personality, because the Blue Jays do have their share of personalities. My personal favorite from Players Weekend was seeing all the cool bat designs that they had. Spencer Horwitz had the green one. Ernie Clement had the pencil one. Stuart Baroa had one with the Dominican flag on it. Yep. Somebody had I think it was Brian Servin, who had the full blue with a little bit of baby blue on it. There was some cleats and stuff as well, plus all the nicknames that the Blue Jays had thrown out there. Did you have a favorite nickname, bat design, or something from Players Weekend that the Blue Jays showed here?
Honestly, I really love when they get to do a little bit more of the personality stuff. Mm-hmm. Some of the previous Players Weekends have kind of thrown me off a little bit, where it's I get the intention here, but it just didn't feel like the execution was there. This felt better. Instead of forcing guys to wear ugly ass uniforms, sorry if you can't swear on this, instead of doing some of the other gimmicky stuff that they've done before, just let the guys be dudes. Mm-hmm. If they want to put a nickname, great. If they don't, great. If they want to use a different bat, different cleats, go ahead. It's nice to see. I thought the pencil one was very funny when I saw it for the first time. And the other one that you mentioned, Horwitz, with the green cleats, the green blat, for mental health awareness. That was really cool to see. Sportsnet, I know, did a little piece. I think it was an interview with Hazel May and Spencer Horwitz, where he went a little kind of more in depth about some of the struggles that he went through as a guy in the minor leagues. And a lot of the other guys have had experiences like that. It's not easy for some of these guys, especially you look at guys like Ernie, who had to spend years and years and years in the minor leagues before they finally got a real shot. And it's tough, man. The pay's not great. There's a lot of bus rides. There's a lot of tough things to go through. So nice to see that they it wasn't just about like, oh, guys being dudes. There was some thought behind it, at least from some of the guys.
Yeah.
So,
and guys don't always get the support they need. You're just told, put your head down, work harder, be better, and it's hard on these people. And so it's always good to show that they have support. I want to give some gripe on some of the nicknames though the Toronto Blue Jays had. Like, there's no chicken strip on this team for like when Ross Stripling was here. There's no Dick Mountain for Rich Hill when he was here. Like, I'm going through the list of names, the nicknames the Blue Jays had. Like Kirk's was just Kirky, and Servans was just Serves.
Yeah, Kirk even did, I think, captain the previous year, and it's like,
which makes a lot more sense.
At least he was kind of leaning into that a little bit because that was what everyone else was calling him. But yeah, I 100% agree that there weren't a ton of the nicknames that were like jump off the page at me. Like there were some ones that we had in the past that stood out for me. The one that I think always stands out for me is I don't shoot me for mentioning him, but Trent Thornton's nickname on Players Day was Butters, if I'm not mistaken.
Butters, yeah.
Which was very funny.
And Cecil had Squints. I remember that.
Squints,
that was very funny. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had some funnier ones in the past. So it's a shame that we didn't get quite the same creativity. Even like Teoscar with Mr. Seeds.
Mm-hmm.
That was at least okay. They're hyping up, the thing that he does in the dugout. Whereas this year just felt like just the generic, like take their last name and shorten it slightly or add E on the end. Like
it's a hockey thing, It's the hockey culture getting through there.
Felt very hockey-ish, yeah. Where the nickname creativity is on the floor.
Shout out to Davis Schneider for going with Schneebs, and he did a little video about why are you calling me Schneebs, because apparently everyone knew John Schneider, and so they didn't want to yell hey Schneider, so he just went by Schneebs, and it sucks. And Ernie Clement being Earn Dog, that is absolutely what I would call Ernie Clement if I was his buddy or if I was his teammate. He'd be Earn Dog for me as well. So those are some of my favorites that I liked. Dave, we're running up against the clock here, getting towards the end of our episode. So I have 5 kind of generic questions that I want to ask to get your overview. This is more maybe bigger picture stuff through the course of the season, and you don't have to spend much time on any of these. Maybe even a simple yes or no will suffice for these ones. But just basic overriding big picture stuff that we've been talking about for most of the season. And the first one is one I'm going to ask everyone who comes on this show here. But do we extend Bo and Vlad this offseason?
Vlad's an absolute yes. I don't think there's any debate about that now. Okay. Bo's an interesting question, but I think that answer has to be yes. If you didn't trade him at the deadline, you're not going to get any better a package for him in the offseason. He's at the low. You have to see him rebound if that's really the direction you want to go. You need to allow him some runway to build back up to the guy that you hope that he still is. Mm-hmm. And then you worry about that. So I think Vlad gets a big deal. I think Bo gets kind of a prove it kind of deal, like a 1 year, here's your deal. And whereas Vlad, I could see him signing a big deal. I hope he signs a big deal. What that looks like, I don't know. The number I've seen thrown around a lot is 30 mil per. And I think that would be very fair.
We'll talk about that in the offseason because we're gonna have all the extension talks in the offseason. Worth noting, we did pick up a very interesting Bo Bichette note, which we're not going to share here. But we did learn some intel on Bo Bichette and his future with the Toronto Blue Jays. And spoiler alert, it might not be too popular. We'll talk about that on another episode going forward here. My next question, just Ross Atkins, John Schneider, are they still around for the 2025 season?
I feel like the answer is going to be yes.
Mm-hmm.
John, I don't always agree with John Schneider's calls. I don't think he's a bad manager, honestly. I think he gets a lot more flack than he deserves in some circumstances, and a lot of the times that he makes good decisions, he doesn't get any credit for it. So I think you give him 1 more year just to see. And Atkins, I mean, Shapiro basically came out and said it without saying it that Ross is going to be back next year. So
the answer is yes, then, eh?
Unfortunately, don't get me wrong. I think he's done well with some of the stuff, but it is starting to approach that territory where it's like, listen, it's been a decade. and we're not really any closer than we were when you came here.
Right. And then my last question, Dave, do you truly believe this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to compete in 2025?
Yes, but with an asterisk.
Oh, tell me more.
We don't have to get too deep into it, but just my personal opinion, if we get real Bo Bichette back,
okay,
and if Vlad doesn't even need to be like this kind of supernova level, but if he's like 80% of what he is right now, and you have the contributions that they're getting out of the rest of the lineup, I think absolutely. As long as the pitching stays relatively consistent, I think this is a team that is absolutely going to push for a spot. Hard to say that they're going to challenge for the division, given the Orioles and the Yankees exist, and even the Red Sox have been quite the story this year. But I think they should absolutely be in the hunt for a wild card spot.
Okay, I like your optimism because it's going to depend on what we do in the offseason to really determine if the Blue Jays do and go for a playoff spot in next year. David, thank you so much. It's going to do it for our episode here today. I appreciate you for coming on and joining us second time. I guarantee you it won't be a year and a half between appearances for you on our show. We're very thankful to have you here. Very good insight. Is there anything you want to plug, anything you want to shout out here as we get to the end of the episode?
Not really. Thanks for having me. Appreciate being back. It's always nice to just be able to chop it up for a little while. Obviously, you know, you and me have these kind of conversations all the time, but it's not like I get to get this kind of into the weeds with most people. So nice to be here. I'll happily come back anytime that you like. And yeah.
David, you are officially an honorary bud of Buds and Blue Jays, so glad to have you here on our show. I'm sure we'll have you back again sometime soon. For everyone listening, thank you. Please make sure to like the video, leave us a 5-star review anywhere you can find your podcast, subscribe to the channel, and look out for more Buds and Blue Jays content as we go a little forward here. For David Fulton, for Riley McConnell, for Jesse Tereso, I am Jesse Burrell. Thank you all for listening, and let's go Blue Jays, as Dave points to the shirt there.
Let's go Blue Jays.
That's the spirit.